deals.com. Check these deals out right now before they run out.
So we'll make the argument on this trostlaw.com fast take that there's as much value for coaches, players, and teams as there is for we and the media and fans for events like what took place behind us at Heritage High School this Tuesday, the second annual Seminole District Football Media Day, because it gives these teams a chance to speak their visions out, crystallize, and when fans and others around the community hear that, it holds them accountable in a different way, adding pressure but also the opportunity to fulfill those goals.
We are VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, W227BG Timberlake at 1320 AM.
This is Bart Winkler with the Sports Minute, sponsored by Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Find a store at metalsupermarkets.com. In their last 60 games, the Milwaukee Brewers have gone 44-16, their best clip in that amount of time ever. This is a team that capitalizes on your mistakes, forcing your team to play a full game of baseball mentally and physically. The Brewers are not a fluke. Regular season success for them will continue. They'll blow it in the playoffs like they always do, but the Brewers right now are not a fluke. I'm Bart Winkler.
When you've got real work to do, Metal Supermarkets will help you get it done fast. With a huge variety of metals in stock, we can help no matter what job comes your way. And all it takes is a few clicks. We make buying metal online easy, so you can spend less time shopping and more time getting things done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Place an order online today at metalsupermarkets.com.
While retinitis pigmentosa takes Mark's vision, his family gives him hope, whether at the family business or at home with his wife and sons. He knows he's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Mark, winning the fight means being there for his family. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases.
Savings are heating up, and so are the summer super deals at the used car superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. You don't need super strength to get approved for credit. Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is super easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. Sheeler makes car buying easy with the hottest brands all in one location. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now and ready to move. More than any other dealer in the area. Plus exceptional service, selection, and savings. Need some summer spending cash? Sheeler will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from us. Plus super money for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing. And we've got the volume with over 900 used vehicles in stock now. No games, no gimmicks, just summer super deals at the used car superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Your premier used car dealer. Locally owned for over 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
I'm not mysterious. I understand that. Well, that's one of the things I'm not.
This is The Rich Eisen Show.
Oh, my word.
The Rich Eisen Show.
You are listening to the home of The Rich Eisen Show, hosted by me, Rich Eisen.
Watch out, because I'm coming for you.
Tune in weekdays for the very best in the world of sports and entertainment with me.
I'm coming after you like every day.
The Rich Eisen Show.
Your humble host on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, now 12 to 3 on your Virginia Talk Radio Network.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
Ready for a curveball? Even for those of us that know the curveball is kind of coming because it was up at Fastlane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram when we teased our lineup for the show today. So if you were there, you know that we're starting the show off today momentarily with Liberty Flames head football coach Jame Chadwell. But maybe a bit of a curveball? Well, it was interesting. Jacob Jenkins tight end for Liberty. Among the players who've spoken with the media so far, and we've heard from a slew of assistant coaches already. And we discussed it yesterday, a couple days ago as well, just different positional breakdowns for Liberty. And that there's a lot of competition right now that earned is the word of the year, as Willie Korn mentioned, but Jame Chadwell is relayed to the Flames. So those are key elements. But Jacob Jenkins, the other thing he mentioned is that's even being borne out, I guess is the right way to phrase that, at the quarterback position, but the how of that and what you're looking for as a player in a quarterback does factor into this as well.
Something that I've always seen is like get your good leaders, like ones that are consistent in that. Because there's times where a guy can throw 7 touchdowns and he's a great leader. But then when they're down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, how's that guy leading now? I think that's a big thing that separates a great quarterback from the good ones. And at Coastal, Grayson McCall was great at that. And then you got in this offense, I feel like a quarterback needs some kind of edge, whether that's we say we're going to run the ball 50 times and the quarterback goes, yeah, let's do it. And I think that's the kind of piece in this offense that is good for quarterbacks to have. And I think all of the guys have that kind of attitude. And they're a great group. They're all really close. And they're not letting competition get in the way of relationships being built.
That's a hard thing to do. And again, to get my usher on for a moment in the fast lane, when I was that age, I really struggled with the competition part, but also handling adversity. And I think it's a coach's job and a coaching staff's job to kind of put those things out there as early as possible for players. But traits that separate the best quarterbacks are ones that are noteworthy. Now, as we welcome in Liberty Flames head football coach Jame Chadwell making his debut in the fast lane. Jame, first of all, we hope you're well. Thank you for joining us on your day off. The curveball to this quarterback discussion is, what update are you willing to share on the LCA quarterback opening, particularly with your son Jameson being in that competition going on for one of the big programs in the Seminole District?
Well, I would say I hope that he's the type of quarterback that Jacob was talking about, that he's competing hard and going after and fighting for what an opportunity that he wants to have. I hope he's getting a fair shake at it as well. Obviously, I don't know. I'm not in there. But I hope he's type of kid and wants to be a great leader regardless of circumstances. And I know he is.
Well, I mean, it's all part of the development. It's one of the beauties of high school football. We will stick on that subject for a moment. For you as a college football coach, certainly when the Flames are on the road, it's a challenge to be able to see Jameson and LCA in action. How different is it, though, for you? Are you in dad mode? Are you in, like, analyst mode? What's your vibe? What's your mindset when you're watching Jameson play a high school football game?
It's really hard not to be a coach mode, an analyst mode, because you're watching and you want him to do things well all the time. I really struggle with being a dad mode and just enjoying watching my son do what he wants to do, enjoy what he does. And so that's been a challenge for me. And so my wife has done a great job of hey, you need to turn this off. And it's hard to turn off because we do it all the time. But fortunately up to this point, I've had a chance to get to see him play a decent amount because of some of the midweek stuff and all those different things. And so hopefully I can learn how to be a dad and just enjoy the journey he's on.
Does it vary? And we will get to the Liberty quarterback competition and the Liberty Flames momentarily with their head football coach, Jame Chadwell, who's kicking off our Wednesday edition of the Fast Lane. No, is it different, though, when Jameson comes up to you for advice versus if you're watching the whole solicited advice versus unsolicited advice?
They tell you to have as much unsolicited advice as possible. And again, I'll be honest, I fight that hard, because you see things and you like, hey, you can improve here, improve there. And part of that was I was raised by a coach and my mom thought she was one as well. So I was getting it from both sides, all the time. Hey, you should, do that. So that's something that I was used to. But of course, not everything fits in one box, so to speak. And so I think there's times where I've maybe overstretched and gave advice when probably I didn't need to, and I just need to be somebody that listens. And so those are other times probably maybe when I needed to give some advice and I was trying to be the guy just to be there. So I wish I had a blueprint on how to navigate that. I know I've messed it up a bunch, but I am thankful that there's opportunities. He asked me stuff. I can give him some wisdom, whether it's good or not, but I can give him some of it.
Pivoting away from the LCA Bulldogs quarterback competition to the one that Coach Jame Chadwell does not have any reservations about offering unsolicited advice, that of course being his Liberty Flames. We spoke with Willie Korn last week, and you mentioned it as well previously that, the whole 2 quarterbacks or multiple quarterbacks equals none. How is that process going right now as you guys try to thin down the order of quarterbacks so that when you prepare for Maine in a couple of weeks, you've got an idea of who's getting first team reps?
Well, you put a lot into what, whether that's through spring, summer, all the different things there. Who's made the most progress between that time and now? Once you get into camp, you can't give everybody the equal reps. You try to do as best you can to make it a fair competition. I believe that. I think it needs to be fair. I think if I'm giving one guy 8 and the other guy 2, that ain't fair, right? Now that doesn't mean they're getting 5 and 5, but I think they got to get as close to possible so you can really get a true evaluation. And so we're in that process there to get the best evaluation possible. You have an idea coming in, like, all right, based off of spring, summer, this is where we think we are at the position. And then you go out and you let them fight it out, and you hope that the cream rises to the crop, so to speak. So we're in that middle of that. We're getting ready to be practice, I guess, 7 tomorrow, and so through 6, we've had some really good things happen. I think we've seen some guys step up and really take a step toward earning that opportunity. I'd like to see us be just from day to day really consistent. And what I mean by that is I think they've all come in and had great attitudes. They've come in prepared, just valuing the ball and doing the things necessary that a quarterback has to do beyond just, on the field there from that standpoint. I think they're getting better at that. And so I would probably say we're where I thought we would be. I didn't expect somebody to win it in 6 practices by any means, but we've got to, as coaches, we know we've got to, got a big scrimmage coming up here in the next 3 days. By that point, you got to start narrowing down the where you see your top 2 to 3 at and start giving them the most, and then make hopefully a decision by the week of school.
So is Saturday's scrimmage kind of that first barometer where you might be able, as a coaching staff, you'd like to come out of that? All right, we're at 5 now, but we'd like to be at 3, maybe 2, and have more of a clear picture of where this is going.
Yeah, I think what the scrimmage does is it gives you an opportunity. One, you're with officials, and so you're operating it like a game as far as game clock and all the different things, play clock. And then 2, it's not as controlled. In practice, you're doing a lot of controlled segments. It might be red zone, it might be third down, it might be a second day. So there's more control. When you're in the game, it's all the things can happen to you. And so that'll be the first time these guys are in a situation where, hey, it's a game-like scenario, and you got to be prepared for anything that comes. And so you can see how they react and how they respond without it being more controlled. And so I think that's something that where you can see some guys maybe take a step and put a little distance between each other is when that's the first time there, because there's not going to be really anybody in the stands. But when you say it's a scrimmage, it's a game. And so there's that little added extra pressure. Guys thinking, hey, this is a big, important day. And this can use the term make or break me or make or break where I'm going. And so there's probably going to be a little added pressure on them. They not from us, but they're probably going to put it on themselves. And so we got to see how they handle that. And so I think that's a good barometer to say, all right, as we take this next step into the next week of practices, 10 through 15. Okay, who are the guys that has proven they can handle the next step of this process?
Jame Chadwell, Liberty Flames head football coach, is with us here in the fast lane. We're looking at where things are with the Flames in camp right now. Saturday's scrimmage, you mentioned that being a natural stress point for these players. Where else have you and your coaching staff turned as the August camps have gotten underway to build in stress so that they have an idea and you as a team have an idea of who handles the stress well and where your roles get more clearly defined?
Well, I think you're trying to create adversity just with your schedule in general. Being here, fall camp, as you're here all day long. So there's a natural tiredness whether you're practicing once. The old days you're practicing 2 or 3 times. Now you're not, but still you're here a lot. And so I think there's a natural stress, adversity built in because you might not be getting as much sleep and you're doing football all day long. Secondly, you hope with the way you're practicing. Obviously, there's some physical stress, but you're hoping that you're putting a lot in mentally. And so you're requiring guys to be able to recall that information in a short amount of time and then do it out in a meeting room and then out through a walkthrough and then out on a practice field. And those start to add up when you get so many days in a row. And I think the way 2 days are now, you get so many days you have to have an off day, right? You get so many days you have to have an off day. And so the way we built our schedule is there's 3 or 4 days practice, off day, 2 or 3 days off day, 2 or 3 days off day, and then we really get into 6 straight days to mimic what a season would look like. So I think the stress from a fall camp and heart is really coming into next week. But we're hoping with the way we've organized practice, whether that's the drills we're doing, whether that's the for the doing one field, two field, a lot of reps, different things, that they're getting tired and they're having to respond when they're tired. And weather's not doing us a lot of favors right now with that, Ed, because it's been the 70s right here. And so next week it's going to get hotter. So that's going to create some adversity as it is as well. So I believe that's coming. And those are ways that you try to organize it to create some built-in stress beyond just what competing for a job or competing for a spot.
Jamie, so you mean that you and the coaching staff at Liberty might be the only ones that are excited to look at the temperature rising next week and the humidity going back up to where it was a couple of weeks ago?
100%. You need it, obviously. I think as a football team, as much adversity, when you got helmets and pads on, all that extra stuff, all the extra heat, man, that brings more to it. And then secondly, as you know, when you play some of these games, especially as you play them earlier in the day, it's going to be hot through September. And so the more you can prepare for that, I think the little bit better. And so our players are loving this right now. Our coaches, or maybe they love it too. Me, not so much.
Jame Chadwell, Liberty Flames head football coach, is with us here in the Fast Lane. Earned is the word of the year. Willie Korn let that slip when he spoke with us a few days ago, and we discussed it previously here in the Fast Lane. Our listeners can check that out. Fast Lane, Ed Lane, however they would consume podcasts. But part of that is where it gets tested as the depth chart comes out. How are you as a coaching staff and how are you as the head coach in a spot right now where you're identifying how these players react to the fact that once the roles become more clearly defined and playing time is on the line, that all of a sudden the joy from the beginning of camp combined with the stress that they're already feeling from the grind, all of that can change the attitude. What are you doing to make sure the attitude stays where it's been at the beginning?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's a natural thing that happens. Everybody at the beginning has hope that something good's happening, right? And they all hope they can be a starters. And you lay it out from the beginning, we only can have 11 out there at a time. And that whatever role that you earn on the team is valuable. It's important. So I think it's very important to relay and show how valuable each position is, whatever it is, whether you're the backup, whether it's a special teams only, whether you're a show team player, that each role is valued. I think that's one. And then two, I think you always got to keep the purpose of why you're playing in front. If it's all just about the individual accolades or the individual self, it's not going to work out anyway, whether you're the starter or not, because it's all going to be selfish motives. And a team that's not selfish, but if you're individual selfish, you won't play up to what you're capable. We've obviously had that experience before in our career. And so I think you got to keep the purpose in front of you. Hey, why is it important to be a part of a team? Why is your role important? And yeah, you might not have earned ultimately what you want, but if you're it's biblical, Ed. If you're faithful in a little, eventually you'll be faithful in more. And so you try to keep that in the forefront. And that's hard because young guys, they think the world comes and ends day by day instead of seeing a future with it, right? And so that's the challenge that coaches face. Sometimes we've done really well with that, and other times maybe not so much. And so, but I think the team is in a good position to where there will be disappointment. Whoever doesn't earn the right to be the starter or the second guy or whatever it may be, there's definitely going to be disappointment because they're putting a lot into it. But also, I think they understand and see the bigger picture. Doesn't mean we won't have to handle some things and some long faces and some disappointments, but I do think they see the bigger picture and understanding what this team is capable of accomplishing this year and want to make sure they're part of it.
Josh Lynham, the defensive coach for Liberty, was speaking with the media a couple of days ago and had great thoughts that we'll get into around 5:45 today in the Fast Lane about the value of looking for the right traits in players that are coming to Liberty, which is more challenging than ever with the transfer portal. But there are also opportunities with players that have what would be called, power program pedigree that can come to Liberty and can make a real difference. As the coach at Liberty, what are you seeking and what have you sought out of players that allow them to have the right kind of personal character, football character, but also the blend of talent that can make them contributors to what you want to build and how you want 2025 to be different?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have certain fits that you're seeking. You mentioned the portal makes it harder. The portal makes it extremely hard because the portal guys are making decisions in 2 weeks, not 6 months, right, as compared to high school. So the time to get to know them is way less. And so you have to have sort of some non-negotiables of what you value as a coach in your program, what works in your program. Obviously, we know you have to have some requisite talent But do you love the sport? Do you love football? Do you love the process of what it takes to try to become a great football player? And we've been fortunate to get some guys that from P4 levels that maybe hadn't played as much or not worked out, and they've come here and end up having some success. And I think part of that is, one, sometimes people need a new start, fresh start, but also I think maybe they chose the wrong place for who their personality is or for what they are. And you hope Liberty, with obviously with the faith-based aspect, we obviously have resources to help them continue to develop and grow. And then also I think our coaching staff sees the best in people. Anybody that you're bringing in, there's something wrong, right? There's something, whatever it may be. Maybe not as talented as what they thought, or whatever it may be. But you get a fresh start, and as coaches, we can give them a fresh start and say, hey, we're going to judge you based off of who you are, not what you've done. You get a fresh start to be who you really believe you are. And we really try to work hard on building confidence in them and believing in them. And I think sometimes when you're at another place and you don't get it figured out right away, that belief in you gets taken away quickly by other coaches, because the pressure they face in jobs and trying to win. And so we've taken an approach of really pouring into everybody that comes in here. And so we're looking for guys that are coachable, that care about football, that love the part of not what football can do, but just who you become through football. And then thirdly, that want to be part of a team. And for the most part in our 3 years here, I think we've done pretty well with most of those. I'm not saying it's been perfect, but I think we've done well as far as just getting the right type of guys that care about being part of a teammate and really want to be at Liberty and learn and grow here.
What does that say about the coaches that you have as well, knowing that they're coaches that can identify talented players and that have got great ability, but also the fact that they need to identify areas where a player may need a little bit of love and coaching up, and their ability to bring that out of them to get the best of the player?
Well, one, I think that speaks of the type of men they are, that in this profession, anybody can get into now because of, you look at it and there's all these, there's a lot of pros for being a college football coach, right? There's a lot of pros. Most people don't see the negatives. There's a lot of pros, but coaches that truly care about young people are few and far between now. It's all about, hey, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? But I do believe we've been able to assemble a staff that still believes in why coaches are important. All the guys on this staff were impacted by coaches in a positive way. That's why they coach. They knew a coach poured into them and it helped change their lives. And everybody that's here, I believe, really wants to do that through the sport of football. They want to win. They're competitors. They want to do stuff at the highest level, but deep down, they're really teachers of life through the sport of football. And I think that shines through in our program. I think our players that are here, the players that come in, I think they see that, they sense that, they feel that, and that they know these coaches do have their best interest. And so when you believe that and you trust that, good things can happen. And I think our staff does a good job, and they know that, hey, the fit is more important than the talent, and we've not been perfect with that. I'm not saying we've hit on everybody, but they do know that the fit is the right. If we get the right fit, then we can get the best out of somebody, whether that their best is a backup or whether their best is the best show team guy. Our coaches feel confident if they can get the right fit that care about Liberty and our values, good things will come of it.
Couple more with Liberty Flames head coach Jame Chadwell. He's at Coach Chadwell on Twitter and Instagram to keep up with him and appreciate his time on a player's day off over at Liberty University. One of them, and it's a broader picture view on the transfer portal, but we're kind of doing an informal survey, if you want to call it that, here in the Fast Lane. Portal windows. Would you prefer to have two windows like there are now, multiple windows, one window and at a particular time? How would, if Jame Chadwell were called up by the folks at the NCAA, how would you address the desire for the most reasonable portal structure?
I would move the season up to start earlier, get all the season basically be finished by New Year's. I know with the playoff, it'd have to go a little bit into January. But I would love the majority of the season and majority of the playoffs, except maybe the semis and the championship game, be done by January 1st. Open your portal there in January. Have 2-3 weeks of whatever it's open, 10, 12, 15 days there. Have one portal. That way, your team wants to go. You got teammate and they want to try to go somewhere. They go somewhere in January. They can beat a new team. The new team in January. You bring guys in. They can bring your new team in January. You know what your team is from January to December, and then start back over. That to me, I think all coaches would prefer something like that because they know what their team would look like from January to December. If you talk to players and you talk most importantly to their agents, they want to, so they can negotiate and get to maximize all the different things there, But I think and I think majority of players would prefer knowing, hey, this is our teammates for 1 year. Not, well, is this guy here for 4 months? Is this guy here, vice versa? And I think as a coach, that would be ideal. If you had one in January for how many days it needs to be, they all enroll by your start of your school year in January, and you have them for 1 year. You know who your team is. You can practice that way, and then, flip the roster again, starting again in January. And so I think that would be ideal. There's a lot of different ones pushed around. Some people want them in February, some want one in March, some in April, some in May, one portal. Obviously the players and agents want 2 portals. If we're going by the past, it's going to stay at 2 portals because players and the agents typically get what they want out of the deal there. But I do think 1 portal would be best for everybody. It's just, when does that work out? For coaches, I think it's January, but I don't know if that's right for everybody in the country, different schools and different start dates. And there's a lot of different things you got to work through. That's why I think the whole key to it is the season needs to move up. If your season moved up and you finish majority of your games by January, you might have 4 teams that have to worry about a portal with your season open. Now you got 130 have to worry about it. 4 to 130, I think you can live with.
Yeah, I mean, there's some simple math and reasonableness that has been discussed by Jame Chadwell, and we'll wrap it up on this because you mentioned bringing the season up a little bit earlier as part of your solution. 2 foes in Conference USA, Sam Houston and Western Kentucky, are in that week 0 time slot. Would you like Liberty be in that time slot, or maybe, like you alluded to earlier, all of college football to just start a little bit earlier?
I think ultimately, if we want to try to make all this stuff work, because it's crazy, that's the only way to make it work. I'm not saying is that ideal for wanting to play in really early August? Maybe not, but I do think that's the best way to fix all the messes we have without trying to get people to join your team in March or whatever people have talked about it. So I wouldn't be opposed at it. If you got your guys here in the summer and all those things are here anyway, right? So it's not like they're not here. So now you're just practicing while they're here. I do think that, that might be something that down the line that, hey, if we get offered the opportunity, hey, to have a week 0 game, I think we'd be up for that. If that's something, you get a chance to be on national TV and whether it's a conference team or whether it's not, I think that's a great opportunity again to put your brand out there, but we'd be up for it. I know that.
A lot of variables at work, and Coach Jame Chadwell has discussed some of that in the middle of getting the Liberty Flames ready for that week 1 opener against Maine over at Liberty University. Jame, thank you so much for time today in the fast lane, for taking some time on a player's day off at Liberty University. I know there's probably no real time off for coaches from here through the foreseeable future, but we're grateful you've given us a little bit of it. Thank you so much for stepping into the fast lane.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Ed. Thank you so much.
Indeed, Jame Chadwell with us here to wrap up the first part of the fast lane. When we return, some stuff to which we can react, TJ and I. We're not going to get to all of it, particularly the bigger picture stuff on week 0 football, because I'm a proponent of that, as you've heard before, the concept of that. Playing that weekend before Labor Day weekend starts. Think the weekend of high school football benefit games, and then there are 4 games on Saturday, including that Sam Houston Western Kentucky game, right? It's a start Conference USA play, but you've got a slew of those games that you can still enjoy at that particular time. Also, college football, 1 portal window. We've spoken with a number of coaches, kind of an informal poll. Almost all of them favor that type of a setup, but we'll do more on that a little bit later. But the thing about Liberty is that level of competition, what they're seeking. One thing we didn't really get to discuss are the whole non-negotiable concept, and in particular, building depth in an unexpected spot. So we'll get to that when we return in the fast lane. Then the Fast 5 at 5-ish, a lot of topics that you've missed. And of course, some of feedback that's come in, including TJ is the perfect candidate to offer consolation to one of our frustrated listeners. Now, not a fan of both teams, but TJ fits the similar description of, I'll call him the stereotypical fan. So TJ is going to be called upon around 5:45 today in the fast lane, although we'll get his thoughts later, including on Liberty football. All that when we return. This is the Fast Lane VTR and Sports app, Fast Lane Ed Lane, where you listen to podcasts and ask that smart speaker, open VTR in Sports.
Mark Dalton here with Terry Subaru. Love to drive? Then you'll love the all-new 2025 Subaru Wilderness family. These cars are built for adventure with symmetrical all-wheel drive, rugged capability, and legendary Subaru reliability. These stylish vehicles are ready for anything. Plus, every new Subaru we sell comes with an exclusive Terry Promise, a lifetime powertrain warranty. Visit us on Forest Road in Lynchburg or browse our inventory online 24/7 at terrysubaru.com. Terry Subaru. You'll love our cars.
As a mom, I want to enjoy my time with my family and not energy-draining, time-consuming projects. That's why I trust Executive Maintenance. When I need a handyman, I call Executive Maintenance. When I need lawn care and landscaping, I call Executive Maintenance. And when I have a big project like gutter cleaning and pressure washing, I call Executive Maintenance. Guard your family time. Trust Executive Maintenance for all your house jobs. Visit executivemaintenancelynchburg.com and call them today so you can spend time enjoying your family as I do.
Hot weather is right around the corner. Save money on those summer cooling bills by upgrading those old drafty windows. Discover energy-efficient, easy cleaning tilt-in windows now with Collins Custom Builders. Our customers have relied on us for 35 years to provide the best in windows, siding, gutters, and more. Plan early and call today for your free estimate. Find us online at collinscustombuilders.com.
Warm weather means traveling. Hi, I'm Randy Trost from Trost Law with a couple of safety reminders. Always wear your seatbelt. Don't drive distracted or impaired. And remember, it's better to safely arrive a little later than being in an auto accident. Those things can make a big difference between a fun family trip or a painful alternative. At Trost Law, I hope you never need our services, but if you do, we're here to help you at 777-HURT or trostlaw.com.
Once there was a man who couldn't stand.
A mom who couldn't wait.
A scientific community that said it couldn't be done.
And then you.
And then I.
And then we.
Brought neuromuscular disease into screaming color with the Muscular Dystrophy Association.
For 75 years, our voices have thundered through the halls of Congress.
We've willed the impossible into existence.
We've pushed the science,
raised the funds,
shifted the narrative,
and transformed the reality of life with neuromuscular diseases.
For 75 years, we've built communities together,
established the field of neuromuscular medicine,
and made it thrive.
Call that a legacy.
Call it impact.
Call it momentum.
Just call it ours.
Because it's the generations of community heroes that give MDA the strength we have today.
And until neuromuscular disease is a thing of the past, you couldn't stop us if you tried.
Join us and celebrate 75 years of breakthroughs at MDA75.org.
At a time when children are in crisis, the Kids Mental Health Foundation envisions a future where mental health is a vital part of growing up, and support starts with all of us. At home, at school, at practice, everywhere kids are.
If you're at school having a bad day, you just don't want to do anything.
I just get these thoughts like, do better. All my little emotions in my head is just running crazy. I don't know what to do.
As a teacher or coach, do you ever feel overwhelmed?
He's just in tears in the huddle. I was like, what's wrong? And he's just like, I'm just so frustrated. And I didn't know what to do.
None of my undergraduate studies talked about mental health.
Teachers need tons of help.
The Kids Mental Health Foundation is the leading organization promoting mental health for children in the U.S. and has free tools and information developed by experts.
Having those resources is the same as the CPR class to me. We're trying to save a life here.
Check out kidsmentalhealthfoundation.org to get started.
The Virginia Talk Radio Network is our Lynchburg-based group with 8 over-the-air AM and FM radio stations and streaming platforms, featuring news talk, sports, and classic hits. Last year, we started over 900,000 digital streams to your CarPlay, smart speakers, and smartphones. This year, we are going for over 1 million streams. When you run a commercial from us, it plays on all of our platforms, including over 1 million streams. No Lynchburg-based group reaches more people. If you haven't advertised with us yet, advertise with us now. Call Melinda for more information and play your message on our 8 over-the-air radio stations and over our 1 million digital streams. The Virginia Talk Radio Network and Rewind 1039. We play everywhere on every device. Call Melinda today, 434-534-6100. That is 434-534-6100.
Head to lynchburg-hillcats.com to lock in your tickets for the Lynchburg Hillcats this season. Now here's VTR in Sports.
Hey, this is Virginia Tech analyst and former Hokies tight end Mike Burnham. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
So there's some big picture things that Jame Chadwell discussed at the tail end of our chat with the Liberty Flames head football coach who joined us to kick off the Fast Lane today. If you missed it, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts, including the young folks out there. I mean, I guess I would put you in that category, TJ. I'm 39, so I don't know where I fit. But those that listen and consume on social media. But we'll get to the bigger picture stuff, week 0 games, transfer windows, ways to make college football smarter and better in that regard. But there's so many things that have come out. And I give Liberty credit for a good chunk of their media availability. There's some things with everything that I'd tweak and make it different. But for the most part, you've got coaches, you've got players. Maybe we'd love to have even more players and more time because, in the media, we can always find a use for enhanced content. But just having some of that is big. But I would say this about Liberty. For as much as I've expressed concern about notably the fact that, how thick and big are they going to be on the defensive line? Outside of the JMU game, and maybe not even that, I'm not sure where it's going to be a real issue unless you're talking about if Liberty somehow makes the college football playoff. And at that point, I mean, look, if you lack that, but you make the college football playoff, you'll deal with that if you're the Flames and continue to find ways to tweak the roster. Where they make up for it, though, I think is the reality that there's a lot of versatility on this team. Christian Bodner spoke with the media a couple of days ago and really outlined the level of versatility he has switching to cornerback, but the fact that even in doing that, there's a lot of use that he'll be finding at other positions like nickelback, which is slot defensive back, and then as well as just general defensive back where you're more of a safety role, which, long-term may be a concern if he plays really well because versatility is hard to find at defensive back in particular, and, he's got a guy with a lot of upside. But in the short term for Liberty, and right now you're worried about your roster for this year, I love the attitude and the fact that he's willing to take on multiple roles.
Honestly, I still play both. It's really been, it's just football at the end of the day. I played cornerback, growing up, and I really only started playing safety my last year of high school. So it's almost like the same thing, just a couple different techniques. You got more space when you're out there and when you're in the slot, and then when you're out there corner, you can't give up the majority stuff inside. When you're in the slot, you don't want to give up stuff outside. So, I mean, it's honestly like the same techniques, more press technique I'd have to work on, but, it's football for me at the end of the day, just go out there and cover somebody.
So it's amazing because that's Christian Bodner, the defensive back for Liberty, and I'm going to get nerdy into the fast lane. So, what the heck? Why not just go ahead and play the glorious soundbite? It's always great when we can do this when touching on the Liberty Flames because of the coughing and everything else that's kind of intimated in this. Are you laughing with me, TJ? The Into the Weeds soundbite? The one where people at Liberty might be, I'm not so sure about that, but, or they might even just go rejected. But here in the fast lane, we are a fan, sometimes within taste and reason, I would say, of pushing the limits. So, first of all, is that reasonable to be pushing the limits? And are you a fan of this, TJ, which you now know is coming?
Yeah, I say push it as far as you can go.
Lovely. I'm a big fan of anything you can do to kind of have some fun at the expense of anything that's out there. But for the Liberty Flames, that's one of the big things. Now I'm looking for the sound effects, and of course, I can't even seem to find it because did I really wipe this thing out? You got to be kidding me. Whatever. Into the Weeds, we'll do that in just a little bit. That's what we're basically doing. Yes. Now I found it. Good old Ed. Here we go.
The haters say we get into the weeds. They may even say we get into the weed.
Smoke weed every day.
Nah, we love getting into the weeds to discuss some cool sports details here in the Fast Lane.
So for the Liberty defense right now, look, you're in a spot where you're going to lose premium players to opportunities. Jame Chadwell mentioned the ideal of start the season earlier, have one portal window in early January. I'm in the same boat with him. Ideally, I'd love for that to be the case rather than this chaos that we have. And I get it. He mentioned the agents, and that's a big part of the reason why we don't have what we would call a logical portal structure in college football. But for Liberty and all programs in college football, the flip side is if you can give coaches athletic versatility, players that have the right mentality and the right skill set, you can actually have a chance to still have a viable defense in particular, where it's plug and play, read and react, but ultimately players that can absorb a bit mentally and have the right attitude. Josh Lynham shed a lot of insight into this, particularly Monday, that one of the basic tenets is just you have to start with an entitlement-free mentality.
I think football is obviously it's a very tough sport. And everyone's not built for it, and if any type of complacency starts to seep in, it can be shown in a single game and you can lose anybody. Like college football is hard if teams are good. So I think taking the approach of being a effort-based, entitlement-free unit where you got to go out there every single day and fight for your identity and fight for the standards that you believe in, like that's what I think is going to carry us and propel us forward. We have started to show that. Obviously, like Coach Fierbaugh said, it's a long season and we just have gotten started. It's about to get harder. So we just want to see, like, when stuff gets sticky, like who the guys are going to rise to the top, who the guys are going to quit, who can we trust when things are going well to be resilient, to continue to push forward and hold those standards high. So I think we're on the right track.
So that gets to a bigger picture. That was Josh Lynham the other day in the Fast Lane, and he mentioned the fact that when you're looking at players, the mentality is right. That's the hardest thing to gauge. The one thing I would have asked Jame Chadwell about today in the Fast Lane, and to get my usher on for a second because I failed to do that. But it's how you go about identifying the right level of player intangibles, given the lack of real time to do that. And coaches have gone on record before. You speak with former coaches. Sometimes player that you have is going to transfer regardless, and they'll be honest about it. Other coaching staffs less so. But there are also back channel ways, and let's not kid ourselves. I'm not saying Liberty's doing this, but plenty of college programs are where they not only know the player that's available, but if they know the player may be available, they can start speaking to former high school coaches and folks that are around that player to just get an idea of the competitive makeup. But I think for Liberty, we will see whether this makes sense in the season. But I think Kyle Krantz kind of hit the nail on the head, which is it goes back to this point of versatility, because he mentioned the idea, Kyle Krantz, co-defensive coordinator for Liberty, sacks being replaced by pressure. And now that's maybe more of a telltale sign of the right players coming into your program.
Yeah, I mean, we would love to get more sacks. I think the biggest thing for us, sacks are a statistic that's important, but, there's other statistics with the quarterback where you make him reset his feet, where you make him double clutch the ball. We really want to confuse, harass, and hit the quarterback. So whether that ends up in sacks or not, if at the end of the game that quarterback's going to the locker room saying, man, I've had enough, we've done our job.
And because of that, it may not be guys that ooze everything, but it's guys that can be versatile enough that you can throw different things at the quarterback, which is how the whole confuse the quarterback thing came out from co-defensive coordinator Kyle Krantz. And on a shorter term level, but also, again, getting into the weeds on the into the weeds segment in the Fast Lane, TJ, some of that is making the most of what you have to work with if you're Liberty, which is you're going to get guys that have power for talent and ability, but there's something that's missing with the player. It may be an injury history. It may have been a challenge just grasping things intellectually with that player, and the former coaching staff at the Power 4 program didn't recognize it or wouldn't take the time, and didn't have the time in a lot of cases to really cultivate and develop that with a player. Whereas at Liberty, you have to put that effort in and have some of a teaching mindset to being a coach, which, again, credit to Chadwell and Liberty for wanting to have those guys. But also, you've got to find players that have that level of talent. And I think for Liberty, again, this is all on paper. This is not a formal judgment, because that will begin when the main game takes place in about 2.5 weeks from now, or 3.5 weeks from now. But ultimately, all of it makes sense when you factor in the new era of college athletics. We touched on with Ryan Odom for Virginia men's basketball. The big asset he brings is system versatility and having the ability to mold what he's teaching on a given year to the players at his disposal. I think for Liberty, offensively, I think you can set it up. The Chadwell run-based offense naturally lends itself to that. Yeah. But defensively, the versatility, to me, as a football nerd, I won't call myself a savant, but a proud football nerd like you, TJ, if you have the ability to teach multiple things and have players that have multiple skill sets, you can then start to plug and play in different roles on any given season.
No, for sure. And I think that's the important aspect of a coach, finding the best strengths in your players and being able to pluck them out and being able to find a ways for them to showcase it when they're out on that field. I think that's a very important job for a coach. And Liberty has definitely shown signs of being able to do that. And there are signs where, in some cases, they haven't been able to do it. Let's take Jay Hardy, for example. Some players just don't work out on that level.
No, and that's a great example because of the Hardy Bush departures in the spring. The Bush one's the one that I get. I get why he'd be desired by a place like Cal, which is desperate at this point because of all they lost on the offensive side of the ball. And Ron Rivera is a really good defensive coach. And I know he's the GM, not the coach, but whatever. There's a power struggle apparently out there. But Jay Hardy, you mentioned it. He's a guy that seemed to be comfortable in a more of a rotational role for Liberty. The size you're going to miss. I mean, it's hard to find guys that are 6'3", 300 plus pounds, but this is not like Jalen Carter, 6'3", 310. The builds are not the same. This is not Peter Woods. I've seen Hardy in person. I've seen Peter Woods in person. They may be similar size, but they're not similar build in terms of how that size is disproportionately spread out. But you're right about that. And Hardy, because of that, was much less versatile of a defensive tackle, even with his size. You're not asking him to do a lot other than kind of eat up space at a place like Liberty University. Whereas, the players they have now, you can move them around a lot more, and there's more mobility on the defensive side of the ball.
And the best part about that is some Power 4 schools will bring these players in expecting them to play instantly, be ready instantly. Some fresh out of high school. And then we talk about the transfer portal where you got to learn a whole new scheme and play. And if you don't know it instantly, some coaches are like, okay, why don't you just take a seat over there? We're going to bring the next guy up. I think that's what makes Group of 5 schools like Liberty and so forth a perfect place for players trying to figure their niche, their edge. And that's why I think going to schools like Liberty, if you start out there before you try and advance to the Power 4 level, if you decide that Liberty isn't where you want to be full time, that's the perfect place to start.
Well, I mean, look, I agree with that. Or even it's a place to come back and kind of hit the reset button when you may have been a Power 5 scholarship player that really was not maybe cut out to be that way.
Yeah.
And there's a vetting process you have to have as a coaching staff. There is a level of, you have to be able to do it and do it quickly. Like, it's not just vetting. You've got to be very reactionary. Like, you got to think quick on your feet. Josh Lynam, I thought, made a great point. We asked him about the non-negotiables, and that there are some of those that you have to identify quickly about whether a guy can fit. Doesn't mean you're going to bat 1,000 on this, but you need to be able to have a nose to sniff this out.
That's what, that's one of Coach Chadwell's biggest things is he a good teammate and does he love football? And I will say, like, from Crisp to Aiden to Darrell to Micah to Deuce, like, they are really good humans. They're high character guys. I don't have to worry about them doing anything off the field, and they love football. They're very driven, intrinsically motivated to learn the defense, learn the system to be great. So when they have that foundation and that mindset, it is fun. It's a blast to work with.
And you want that, but also for Josh Lynam, it's, you have to have a process for identifying those guys early and quickly.
That's a good question. So when you pop on tape, you start to look for a few traits: speed, toughness, instincts, length. If a guy has speed and he's got length and he's aggressive, you've got something there. You've got something you can mold and work with. He may not have gotten an opportunity. He may have been behind some All-American guys at Michigan or Florida. He could have something missing. Like, there's guys in the portal, majority of them, may have something missing, but that doesn't mean that it's not somebody who could help you out or something you can mold and work with. So you see speed, toughness, instincts, and length, and the guys that can run, I think you have a chance. They've got to have that willing mentality, and they've got to, love football. But if they do, and you see that in them, then you're working with something.
The thing about that with Josh Lynam as well is you have to have coaches that know they have to be able to pull something out of a particular player, because I'll just use them as an example because Michigan won a national championship and one of their players transferred to Liberty. And I know it's a coaching staff change. Harbaugh, no offense to Sharon Moore at Michigan, but I trust Jim Harbaugh, who squeezed everything out of talent and has found ways to win. And they may not be the flashiest team, but they're so physical and they're so versatile and so deep in their physicality. He's got that. But you also get closer to finished products. If you're Liberty, you have to admit that you're not going to get that. So you have to have a plan in place to identify, first and foremost, to identify where the default is in the player. Because if they're a finished talent, I'll use the basketball analogy here, but the fans that complain about Colin Porter and Caden Matheny and Well, I just wish they were 6'1". Dude, if they were 6'1", TJ, am I wrong? If they were 6'1", given they are good ball handlers, great attitude, good defenders, and great 3-point and free throw shooters for the most part,
Yeah.
they wouldn't be at Liberty because they would have been bought off the roster.
Oh, no, for sure. The height is one of the big factors being recruited to a Power 4 school.
For sure. And so for Liberty, that's the thing, is you have to have a plan in place to know that, and you need coaches that are self-aware enough to grasp that concept. When we return to the Fast Lane, we'll see how self-aware we are relative to the topics we discuss in the Fast Five at 5-ish, and we may get to some of your feedback. You're here with us tomorrow, right, TJ?
Yes, I am.
So being a counselor to our listener who's having challenges as a Dallas Cowboys fan, you might be able to offer some guidance, but it may have to wait a day.
Okay.
That when we return here in the Fast Lane on the VTR and Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTR and Sports.
Savings are heating up, and so are the summer super deals at the used car superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. You don't need super strength to get approved for credit. Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is super easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. Sheeler makes car buying easy with the hottest brands all in one location. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now and ready to move. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, and savings. Need some summer spending cash? Sheeler will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from us. Plus super money for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with over 900 used vehicles in stock now. No games, no gimmicks, just summer super deals at the used car superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer, locally owned for over 50 years. ID1 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
This fall, Saturdays belong to the Hokies.
Oh, and these Hokie fans are going crazy here in College Town, USA.
Lane Stadium, electrifying, iconic, the best in college football.
Oh, you'd have to be here to believe it.
Built by tradition and fueled by passion.
Breaks 3 at the 10 to the 5. Touchdown Tech.
Where every roar and every cheer brings you home. Are you ready to start jumping? Tickets on sale now. Visit Hokiesports.com.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real technology so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us, build with experience, build with quality, build with Right Choice.
The thrill of Liberty Flames football returns this fall.
Give it to us. There it is. Touchdown, Liberty.
Be at Williams Stadium in Lynchburg when the Flames begin the chase for the Conference USA Championship. See all 6 home games, including a battle with in-state rival JMU on September 20th. Cross-conference games against New Mexico State, Delaware, Missouri State, and Kennesaw State. Season opener August 30th against Maine. Season tickets and full schedule at lufootball.com.
The feel of the beach is perfect. Relaxing with family and friends. Bonding over memorable meals fresh from the seas. It's a beach experience, and it's in our backyard at 801 Raw Bar in downtown Lynchburg. They're family-owned and family-operated, bringing you that relaxing beach house vibe while you enjoy the freshest seafood from our region, including raw oysters, king crabs, and snow crab. Not really a seafood person? Try their fresh handcrafted burgers, subs, pizza, and salads. Step into the relaxing beach house vibe at 801 Raw Bar on Church Street in downtown Lynchburg.
Summertime means hot temperatures, but hot deals are at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Check out great deals from the Lynchburg Hillcats, both general public and premium reserve tickets at the site right now. Try scuba classes from Aqua Trek Adventures. Plus, one of the best deals at all, Linex of Lynchburg bed liners, a $700 value for only $567. Hot deals during this hot summer at InsaneRadioDeals.com.
Hi, this is Zach Mackey, the voice of Virginia Tech men's basketball. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
So one of the pastimes in sports media, and one of my favorite things is let's just call it what it is to get our confession on in the Fast Lane, is to mock the idea that, like, in sports media, some people in sports fans, some of them, TJ, just complain to complain, correct?
Yeah, no, for sure.
And look, when it's legitimate or if you have a valid point, I'm cool with it. But if all you do is complain, you may know people like this as well. If all they ever do is complain, at some point you start to tune them out.
Yeah.
And I get it. In media, like some media people, that's all they do. Newsflash, there are more options than ever before, so I don't have to listen to you if that's all you ever do is just complain. We will do plenty of that. Let's not kid ourselves to get our usher on.
No.
And we all know it because it's at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, however you listen back.
And guess what? We keep receipts.
Right there. But there's an area where it's worth complaining and not to start the Fast Five at 5-ish.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
Because they're on top of things on the morning warm-up with TJ Wilkerson and Trey Lyle. And, well, let's be real, we're not here in the Fast Lane. They got to this a couple of days ago. But the Braves beating the Reds 4-2 in that Major League Baseball Speedway Classic that was delayed twice by rain on Saturday and then ultimately suspended to Sunday. And the comparisons to NASCAR, which I think are apt and appropriate. Here's where you can complain and not. I think it's reasonable to complain that baseball did the whole NASCAR deal where, like, you can tell it's going to rain and the event's not going to get in on that day, but we keep everyone around with the ridiculous level of hope that we're going to get it in when nobody is actually buying the hope that you're actually going to get it in. That part is worth complaining about. The concept of the event itself, though, I get Tennessee, East Tennessee in particular, is not a, quote, traditional baseball market. But I'm cool with the idea. Have we forgotten this, TJ? There are 162 games per team in a Major League Baseball season. There are literally thousands of these. You want to take one here and there and do the old Field of Dreams game, or what I thought was equally awesome, the game in Alabama with the Negro Leagues as well. And the history upon it. Absolutely. I love it. Same thing with this. We're talking about a couple games of an elongated season. Let's get some perspective here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think I thought this was a great combination between the two. It was unique, and I'm sorry that weather had to delay it, but I thought the MLB handled it well, the best they can. I mean, when it comes to baseball and rain, it just doesn't mix, and they had to move it. And I know people were like, oh, now we got to wait another day. What's the point of going, oh, my seat's so far away, but you bought the ticket to where you're at the seat where you can barely see the field. So at that point, who's it on?
Yeah.
You know?
Now the concession's running out. You've got to have a better backup plan with that. And if not, do the old NASCAR thing where you allow fans to bring in their own food and concessions and even go back for more like they do in NASCAR, which I think is frankly an ingenious approach, given that a lot of the objective is to just get people to the venue. If you're going to charge more for tickets, allow it. If you're going to charge less for tickets, change it up. Meanwhile, the NFL's Hall of Fame game drew 6.9 million viewers. Not quite the benchmark of the coveted 7.3 million for a preseason game that Cowboys Steelers drew on Fox a couple of years ago for that Hall of Fame game. But it still speaks to the strength of the NFL. This is a game where we knew Jared Goff, Lions, and Justin Herbert, Chargers, were not going to play. And it was kind of ugly. It was 14-0 pretty quickly in favor of the Chargers. After that, I kind of stopped caring about it, even though we had it right here on the VTR and Sports app. But it speaks to the strength of football and the fact that, I mean, look, I'm a football nerd like you, TJ. I watch plenty of it, even if it's meaningless and backup fill preseason.
No, same. I like preseason football, but I mean, to a point, the Hall of Fame game, it's a fun event to watch people like Sterling Sharp get nominated into the Hall of Fame. But the game itself, when it's just a preseason game, kind of loses its meaning. I wish it was a regular season game so that it had more meaning in the game, not just, hey, this person qualified in the Hall of Fame, but now we get to see a real live game that matters, you know?
It generates excitement for me. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of like week 0 only has 4 college football games. And
Yeah.
we're not going to pretend that, Iowa State and Kansas State, although that one might actually have some level of meaning. But, sorry to Trey, but Hawaii hosting Stanford, who's going to be a bottom feeder in the ACC.
Yeah.
Or, Western Kentucky, I think they can do pretty well in Conference USA, but they're hosting Sam Houston. Forget the 4th game. Nobody's pretending these teams are going to win the national championship this year, but it's exciting for football. And if you just like the sport and the art of chess on grass, if you will, that's the cool part about this time of year.
And people forget Western Kentucky, Sam Houston State. Those were the top 2 programs in the Conference USA. So for them to start out the season, that's for Group of 5 fans, that's an awesome game to start out with.
More on that as we get closer. But speaking of preseason games versus practices and the meaning of them,
Number 3,
Mike Vrabel got beat up apparently today. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, he broke up a fight today and he got busted in the head and they said he was bleeding, man. What a dog.
I mean, look, first of all, I wonder if there's an element of showmanship. Like Dan Quinn doesn't have to do that to win over the Washington Commanders and show how tough he is.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel's a little younger than Dan Quinn, though.
He's younger. They're both defensive, rah-rah, toughness guys, which, again, to get my usher on for a moment, I do love that mentality in a football coach within reason.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell in Detroit, Quinn with the Commanders, defensive-minded Tomlin, everyone knows, with the Steelers. A fan of that as well. But the cool thing about that is that, first of all, there is a little bit of trying to set the tone for the Patriots with the new head coach and Mike Vrabel. I do think there's some showmanship that goes with that. There's also the reality that when you're fighting in practice, you want to push to the brink of that. And if you're a coach, to an extent, you're okay going over that line a smidge. It's when it's, pushing and shoving versus punches being thrown. Punches being thrown, throwing helmets, things that could get you ejected in the game, coaches are going to get upset. But the extra pushing and shoving and hitting and, things of that nature, you are kind of trying to test your team to that extent and get answers on what's going to provoke it and who handles their cool better than others so you can work through that as a team. That is one of the valuable points now, and you're not getting that in a preseason game, partially because players maybe on a different level of focus for even if they're playing in a preseason because they probably need the roster spot. I watch the preseason game more because, again, chess on grass, even with backup players, I'm a nerd like that.
Sure.
But I get what Mike Vrabel is trying to do with the tone setter and found it interesting. I just don't think Dan Quinn would feel the need to do that for the Washington Commanders, given they have a little more experience on this team.
No.
Number 2.
Speaking of football personnel, and we'll go over just a smidge here in the fast lane on W227 BG Timberlake, WVGM Ames Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna Danville Southside. I don't know if we should be shocked, TJ. I am not. That in a meeting of 23 general managers in college football from Power 4 schools met in Nashville over the weekend with athletes.org to discuss collective bargaining and the possibility of it. And during that 5-hour meeting, all 23, quote, agreed in unison that the best way forward for college sports is collective bargaining. I'm not surprised by that. I just would again say this. The GMs will advocate for it. Many of them are probably in the SEC and the Southern schools, which are the most resistant to the idea of unionization and they're more right to work states. I think there's pluses and minuses to this concept, and I'm an anti-union guy over the long haul, but in the short term, I think there's merit to it, especially given the chaos in college athletics. But here's the thing about this. They just don't have the level of influence and cachet as GMs, the way that standing coaches, and even they don't have a lot of it. I mean, Coach K, Roy Williams, Jay Wright, Tony Bennett, Jim Boeheim, Nick Saban, plenty of respected coaches in college football and basketball have gotten out because they don't like the direction it's going.
Yeah.
If they can't realistically impact change from the people who were in charge in college athletics, what makes you think that this is going to be any different?
No, and I think we're going to start to see athletic directors step down because the process is too much as well. Look what's happening in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that with Louisiana Monroe and their athletic director. I wouldn't worry about it like for a Liberty fan's perspective because relative to the group of 5, and frankly, I think in college athletics, I don't know if I'd quite go top 10 the way that some folks speculated, but I think Liberty's a top 25 caliber job when you combine resources, the pressure to win, relatively speaking. This is a very meek media market, and look, me included, and you included as well, TJ, but we're not like out for blood looking for angles in every gotcha question that you'll find in SEC markets or in a lot of the bigger northern markets, Philly, Boston, Chicago, New York, those type of places. So combine that with resources and the ability to win and to have the tools to do that, I think Liberty's in a good spot. I wouldn't worry about it. But I think when you look at Louisiana Monroe, I think you could see other athletic directors where the pressure to win is challenging, and the fact that you're falling further behind the programs that do have those resources, that is where I would find a much greater level of concern. Meanwhile, speaking of those smaller programs, I would love the idea of college basketball expanding March Madness to 76 teams, which basically might take that first week and you just have more playing games and you start the tournament itself a little bit later, maybe the second week. Stretching this thing out for games is not where I have the issue with it. I know a lot of people love 64. Again, personally, I love the old 64 team model. I thought it was perfect the way it is. I understand they're at 68 now. They'll never go back to 64, and they'll find a way to expand and add more teams because that's more games, and all of that means
dollar bills, y'all.
which is what they have, and everybody who cares most about that. But the reason why I've got more of a concern is if you had more Cinderellas getting into the tournament, then I would be fine with this. Okay, they're not winning a tournament, but how often? Okay, for every Syracuse that barely gets in, or North Carolina that barely gets in, and then the next thing you know, they're in the Elite Eight or the Final Four because the bracket breaks their way.
Yeah.
How many more teams that get in, especially now, power conference teams, but really aren't that qualified, and by the time you get through the first weekend of the tournament, they're nowhere to be found. If that's the case, I'd rather there just be Cinderellas in the tournament because I think you will get some Cinderellas here and there that might make the Sweet 16, maybe the Elite Eight. But I just think we're going to see fewer of them to the Final Four because their rosters are going to get picked over the previous season. And so the talent disparity between the haves and have-nots is going to be greater over the course of it, especially winning a national championship or having a chance to, like Butler did back in the day. Now you either have to just be in the conference like Butler is in the Big East, or you have to be in that other spot. But if you had a chance to get more Cinderellas in, I could justify expanding the tournament. But even though the NCAA voted not to expand the tournament now, I would be okay with it under those circumstances. But do you really have faith they're going to get this right, TJ?
No, my fear is you expand it. It just gives the SEC and the Big Ten, who already have so much power, to put more teams in. And then you start to push the ACC and Big 12 out, as well as those Cinderella teams. It's already harder for Cinderella teams to even compete these days because the NIL money now being a factor, it's a major shift.
No doubt about it. And that's the biggest issue that I've got with the idea of expansion of the tournament. I know Richie McKay, and we're going to hopefully chat with him in the next week or so in the Fast Lane, Liberty men's basketball coach, likes the idea because it's hard as it is for a school like Liberty to schedule the right way to get in that large bid. But I just don't think that's as likely to change. I just think when you expand the tournament, the people that push for it are going to be the schools that have access to the power anyway, and they're just going to do what's best for them, which isn't going to add any more Cinderellas. It's just going to add more watered-down, mediocre teams that are on the bubble right now. And even now, we're already looking at some of these resumes come Selection Sunday and going, we're really worried about this 16 and 13 team in the SEC versus this 18 and 16 team in the Big Ten. Like, we're comparing different sections of the landfill here, TJ.
No, I agree. Expansion's already like crazy talk. I get it's money. You want more money. You want more TV deals, and it'll definitely bring it in. But how much excitement will the fans have if you continue to have NIL dominating over Cinderellas? Like you said, Cinderellas rarely win the tournament except for Texas Western years ago over Kansas.
Very true indeed. Great way to wrap it up in the Fast Lane. Great points again from TJ Wilkerson. He and I will have more of them. TJ more than me. Tomorrow in the Fast Lane, we'll have some NASCAR talk. We'll start looking at high school football season and offering some thoughts on that. You pump your fist, TJ, like you're a fan of that.
I love high school football. LCA, I think Brookville will be a lot better this year. Heritage is always exciting. It's going to be a great season. 8
teams in the Seminole District will start breaking it down, doing some on-location TrostLaw.com fast takes and some observations. We have a slew of commentary up at Fastlane Ed Lane on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. For those who missed it, we'll have some audiograms, by the way, from the ACC kickoff in the next couple days as well. TJ and Trey and I and Ty are all loading you up with more content than you can imagine. So keep it locked there, but we'll start getting into it tomorrow in the Fast Lane. I'll have to carve some time out better than I did today so TJ can weigh in on that. You're listening to the Fast Lane now on DeVeason's Make It Rain with Adam Shine, already in progress.
Will hit the over at 9.5. I still like them to win the division at plus 320. I think the Minnesota Vikings